Okay, welcome back, everyone. So please, we want to begin now, and I will implore us to mute our mics and also let us mute our videos. Please, I don't know why Ukeka Queen and Kenneth, I don't know why you're raising up your hand. Do you have anything to say? Please, if you don't have anything to say, you can just click back the hand icon so that it will take it off the screen so as to avoid confusion. So I welcome us once again to another session of Livestock Hour, and I believe we all can hear me very, very clearly. Faith, please, we don't want to see your video because of network. I can see you have a very nice face, but please, you will need to mute your video so that we can have a very good network. Thank you very, very much for doing that. You are welcome once again to another session of Livestock Hour. And today we are going to be discussing establishing a poultry farm. Please, Mrs. Tinuke, please, can you help us close your video? Thank you so much for that. The reason we are doing that is so that we can have a smooth network. We all know the country that we are in, and when everybody start putting on their videos, we all are going to have network issues, and we don't want that, right? We want a session where we can come, hear the facilitator very, very clearly for the questions that it will be asked and for everything that will be discussed, so that we all can leave here with something, and the 1 hour that we are going to spend here is going to really, really worth it. So that's why we have to mute our mics and also close our videos. So today we are going to be talking about establishing a poultry farm. And when we talk about establishing a poultry farm, it basically involves sorry, I'm not a facilitator, but I need to do the little introduction before I bring in our facilitator. Yes. All right. So we'll talk about establishing a poultry farm in a few minutes, or just summarily. It talks about involving creating and managing a system for raising chickens and other birds for the production of meat, eggs, and other products. So our facilitator today is going to be, delving into those things in detail. What is this poultry farm about? What are the things that we need to know, about this poultry farm? What are those things that we need to bear in mind? What are those things, whether you are just starting, whether you've been there for years, our facilitator will be telling us a lot of things that we need to know. So I'm going to introduce our facilitator now. This is the second time actually that he has been on Livestock Hour. I want to really, really appreciate him for making himself available despite his schedule, and also the fact that he is joining us from all the way from Ghana. Sorry, Agbola Sekina, please can you close your video and also mute your mic? Please close your video and mute your mic. Please, we implore you, close your video and mute your mic. Agbola Sekina, please help us do that. Agbola Sekinat, please close your video and mute your mic, please. Please close your video and mute your mic. Okay, so meet our facilitator. Apostle Emmanuel Abi is a seasoned farmer. Please, I'm still getting that echo. Agbola Sekinat, please, can you mute your mic? All right. I'm so sorry. Please, I needed to reach out um, to our admin so that they can help us to stop all this. I can't do it here from my end. Please, Alafe Ayodeji, please close your videos, please. We don't want to use about 10 to 15 minutes to start telling us to close our videos and mute our mics when we have a lot of things to do. Alafe Ayodeji, please close your video. Thank you very much. Agbola Sekinat, you can hear me. Please close your video and mute your mic before you are removed. Please, once the admin gets to see you, the admin is going to remove you from this call. All right, please let us continue so that we don't use half of our time to do corrections. I believe we are all matured people here and we know what to do as and when due. All right, so let us meet our facilitator. Apostle Emmanuel Alabi is a seasoned farmer with a strong academic background, holding a postgraduate degree from the Federal University of Technology, Minna, Niger State. Since venturing into the poultry industry in 2011, he has built a successful farming enterprise and trained aspiring poultry farmers across West and East Africa. He currently based in Ghana and he continues to make significant contributions to the agricultural sector. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us welcome our facilitator, Apostle Emmanuel Alabi. Apostle Emmanuel Alabi, can you hear me, sir? Is it there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, good evening, sir. You are welcome.
It is well. Thank you so much. Thank you for this
Hello,
opportunity
sir.
again. Hello, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Yes, I can. Good evening. Please, can you just say like a welcome message to everyone in the house?
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity given to me again to do this with you. Yes, as he has rightly said, my name's Apostle Emmanuel Alabi, and I'm speaking from Accra, Ghana. And this is the second time that I'm privileged to be your facilitator. And I just believe that God is just going to help us at this time so that we'll all be able to share and be able to learn and become a blessing to um, whatever thing He's asking us to do with our farming and with people who are even coming around to be part of what we are doing. So today is going to be a very wonderful time. And I thank God for this opportunity given to me again. Thank you so much, Mr. Femi. I appreciate you. And I want to thank you all who were so patient to listen to me the last time I spoke. And I just believe that many of you are still online this day and many too will be joining. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, sir. You are welcome very, very much. You are welcome very much. So, without wasting much of our time, we just want to delve straight into it so that we can have time to sort out other things. Somebody's mic is on. I think another mic is on. I can hear myself from. Okay, please can we all mute our mic so that we don't have echoes? All right, thank you. So okay, sir, I think your mic is on, sir. I'm getting feedback from. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, all right. So moving into it quickly. So can you just, before we delve into the in total of establishing a poultry farm, can you just give us an overview of what it means to establish a poultry farm? We'd like to hear from you. What does it mean to establish a poultry farm? You know, what is it about? An overview of what it means to establish a poultry farm. You can go ahead, sir. So I'll mute my mic over here so that we can hear you clearly. You can go ahead, sir, to just give other matters as it concerns establishing a poultry farm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can receive an echo here. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Femi.
I
Yeah,
see
when
that.
it comes to
Okay.
establishing a poultry farm, a whole lot of things comes into our minds. You know, poultry keeping appears at a first to be a simple operation, but it is one of those undertakings which requires a whole spectrum of things to consider for its establishment. So it entails quite a lot of things. So many times I always tell people that if you really want to come into poultry, there is need for you to take a training, because it is not just something you just venture into it, because it is money you are going to invest into the whole thing. So it entails a whole spectrum of things to be considered before you can establish a poultry farm. When these things uh, are well detailed and well understood, then coming into poultry farming becomes a bit easy for you. But if you don't have a pre-knowledge of what you really want to do with poultry, you don't even know what poultry is all about. You don't know the type of operation you have to engage yourself in. All you know is everybody is doing poultry, and I just want to follow up and do poultry. And that is the reason why we've seen quite a number of persons, they crash along the line, because if you don't really know the detail of it and what it takes to venture into it, not even the financial aspect of it alone. Somebody might be having enough money to establish a poultry farm, but there are basic things the person has to know. So if you don't know these things and you eventually come into it, you put a whole lot of money into it. At the end of the day, you end up living an empty structure, because when it comes to poultry birds, there's quite a whole lot of things that we have to know, because birds can be very funny. Birds can be very uh, lucrative. It could be a very lucrative business, the best business to do, but at the same time, it could be a catastrophe somewhere when you don't even know what to do, and even when you know what to do, not doing it well can even end you in a situation. um, there's quite a whole lot of things to be considered, and that is why we are here today. We want to look at some of these things so that we all will be able to go back to our drawing board and ask ourselves various questions: that am I really doing this thing well? What I'm doing, is that what I have to supposed to do? So I think nobody, we always say that it is not too late to be right. We can always go back and change things so that eventually we can come out well with it. So establishing a poultry farm, there's quite a whole lot of things to do. And that is why we are here today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very, very much for that very, very wonderful introduction. One thing I picked from what he said was having a pre-knowledge, you having an understanding of something before you go into it. It doesn't matter your financial capacity. If you don't have knowledge of something before you go into it, you will end up wasting money. And trust me, we don't want to waste money now. This one that fuel is already 1,200. Trust me, you don't want to waste any dime of your money. So you want to get the appropriate knowledge before you go into anything, any business at all, even if it is not poultry business. You want to get a very, very good knowledge before you go into it. So you mentioned something about types of operations. So moving into that, can you tell us the different types of poultry farming operations and operations we have, and what are the different managerial this thing that applies to them? Can you just give us an insight into that?
Yeah, thank you. When it comes to types of operation, we have the broiler production. We have the layers, we have the cockerels, we have the newlets and the crawlers. I think in Nigeria you are more conversant with the newlets and the crawlers. In Ghana, we are not really doing much of this. That's why some time ago I have to reach out to Afrimax that is it possible for us to be having birds from that place into Ghana, and they said they are not yet into export now. So Yes, we have the broiler production, we have the layers, and we have the cockerels. These are the operations, the type of operation now currently when we don't limit it to poultry farming. When we limit it to poultry farming, there are other type of livestock that we add up to poultry farming. But when it comes to poultry, we're talking about birds, we are talking about broilers, we are talking about layers, we are talking about cockerels. And all the depends on what the person really want to do. When you want to come into poultry as a business, you just have to sit there and begin to figure it out. Do I want to go into the poultry business, the layer business, or I want to do the broiler business, or I want to do the cockerels? All depends on the kind of dream you have and what you really want to achieve out of what you want to do. So the broilers are just for meat, and the layers with either the white or the brown layers is to lay eggs, and the cocks too are very strong birds, and that one too is meant for meats, and the newlets and the crawlers. Yeah, so those are the types of operation that we have when they come into poultry farming. And what are the different types of what are the managerial uh, yeah, how do we manage all these things? When we look at these types of operation that I've mentioned, we have a general management practice for all, a general management practice for all. But sometimes when you want to now limit yourself to the broiler production, then you see that you begin to have a specific kind of management that you want to apply when it comes to that. But in general, we have a general, how do we call it, practice for all. And the first one I'll talk about is record keeping. Yes, for every uh, operation, when it comes into poultry, with all these type of operations, you need to have a very good record keeping, which is very important. The time you took your birds, the record that you have for your feeds and for your medications, for your vaccines, and all these stuffs is very, very important to keep good records. And these are part of the managerial practice that you need to really have on your farm to be able to achieve success. I do it very well. I need to keep records for all my cocks that I'm raising for this time for the Christmas, so that I'll be able to know the number of fees that came in. I will know how much I spent on fees, on water, on electricity, and all these things. I keep all these records so that when I finish, I divide it on all the number of beds I have, and I decide to say, okay, well, this is what I've spent on this base, and this is the amount I'm going to sell it. So record keeping is very vital when it comes to poultry operation. And vaccines too. Yes, vaccines is applicable to all. It's part of uh, managing your birds. We give vaccines to all these birds, regardless their type, but it varies. When it comes to the broilers, we don't give all the vaccines we give to layers. No. So we just, so that's why I said that when we come specifically to each of these operation, it will happen that the managerial practice will just be slightly different, slightly different. Like for instance, I would do gumboro for my broiler. I would do lasota, and I don't give them far pause because they will be with me for a very short time, between 6 to 8 weeks, or 6 to 12 weeks, or 16 weeks. So I see no reason why. And when my area is not prone to mosquitoes and insects or whatever thing that can make them be vulnerable to a virus that will make them have far pause, why should I give them the vaccine? But when it comes to layers, I have to go through all the process of vaccination, so that I won't be caught wanting at a particular time, because I'm investing quite a number of money into it. So yeah, the biosecurity too is applicable to all beds. Your biosecurity is applicable to all beds. You don't just say that this particular set of operation, I need to do this, I need to do that. Biosecurity is very important. It's applicable to all beds. And you're cleaning your environment, cleaning your pen, cleaning your feeding trays and whatever, your drinkers, all is applicable to all these beds. Disinfecting the place is applicable to all beds. And so that I said earlier, I said slightly, when it comes to some other part of managerial practice, there's a slight difference. For instance, what I said earlier on the vaccine aspect, and vaccine aspect, yes, there's always a slight difference in that very direction. So that is it. So when it comes to general management, it's a practice for all, and we need to do it very well so that we can have a very successful operation. Thank you. Mr. Femi, are you there? Hello?
Hello, sir. I can
Mr.
hear you, sir.
Femi,
Sorry, the network is breaking a bit. I can hear you. I
breaking.
can
Yeah,
hear you.
so
I'm with you. I'm with you. Thank you very much.
I'll finish with the first question you asked.
Yes, the network is breaking a bit. I don't know why, but I'm with you. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you for explaining the various types of poultry farming operations that we have and how they vary in terms of management. You talk about the fact that on a broader scale, the managerial practices for this poultry are usually similar in terms of record keeping, vaccine, and also some other things. Okay, so now let's begin to go into specific things. Can you explain the main differences between broiler and layer operations? Are there any distinctive differences? I know that you talk about record keeping that applies to all, and also vaccine, but aside the things that has to do with you can do them for both. Are there managing them? Are there some specific kind of operations? Okay, if I'm into broiler, what are the things I do as someone, as a farmer that is into raising broilers? What are the things I do as a farmer that is into raising layers? So can you please just explain that to us? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, as a farmer, if you are into probably layer operation, you should know that these are birds that are basically meant to lay eggs. You are keeping them for a period of time, from day one to probably for 20, talking about 24 months. Yes, some can go as far as 24 months. So those ones are an operation that takes a longer time. Yes, it's not something you just do in a very short time and you dispose them of. But I've seen that in Nigeria, the practice is a little bit different, whereby in Nigeria, I can see people raise layers for 6 weeks or 7 weeks and they sell them. And they even raise layers too at a point of lay and they sell them. I saw that same practice in Kenya, in Uganda too, whereby they raise layers to they call it point of lay and they sell it. Yeah, so there's a place I stayed in Nairobi, my friend in Nairobi. The wife always tells me, let's go because you are into farming and you do all this trade. Follow me. I want to go and buy beds that are at the point of lay. Fine. But in Ghana, we don't do point of lay. Where Ghana, we believe that the investment into layer business is more bigger and greater. You need a lot of money to go. So you don't have to go and buy this bed, raise it for 6 weeks, and you sell it to somebody who will later enjoy the benefit of it. So when you are coming into laying production or operation, you should know that it's a long-term investment. It's a long-term investment and it requires a lot of money. And I said earlier in my first question, the answer to it said, the vaccination for this particular operation is different. You start the vaccination from first week, second week, third week, and it goes on that way. You see, so it's quite a different thing. Yeah, so basically, layer operation is an operation whereby you keep these birds to lay eggs for you, and you begin to reap the benefit of the investment you've made into this bird from the eggs they lay for you. So that is that for layer operation. It's a long-term investment. It requires a bird to be with you for up to 16, 17 or 18 weeks before they start dropping, before you start seeing the first egg. Sometimes it can go to about 23 weeks. All depends on how you were able to take care of kind of breed of birds you've gone for and how fast they lay. So yeah, so it's a long-term investment whereby you have to put a lot of money into it before they start laying. And when they start laying, they can lay for you for about 1.5 years or probably a year, 2 months or like that. So it's a long-term investment. But when it comes to broader operation or production, as we say it in Ghana, it's a short-term kind of investment. And these birds are basically raised for meat purpose. Yes, for meat purpose. And some of them today I've seen in Ghana whereby some people are raising them for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and they sell it to all these fast food joints. Yes, because they don't want the birds to be so big. They want it smaller, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and they buy it and they can make their own profit out of it too. So when it comes to broiler production, it's a very short-term business. You don't keep the birds for so long. The only time I kept broilers, I kept it for about 16 weeks. And even at that time, I have to change the feeds when they were about 12 weeks so that they don't have a heart attack. It's very dangerous keeping them for a longer time because they don't have the stamina, to be able to withstand a long-term lifetime. So we basically, you should know that it's a short-term business. You raise them for 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 12 weeks, and you sell them off, and it's basically meant for meat. So, and the vaccination of broilers too is, you don't do much vaccination for that, just about 3 vaccines that you give to this bird. So that is it. So the difference between broilers and layer operation is, one is a long-term business. You invest into it for a longer time. They lay for you for a longer time. That is the layer business operation, and the broiler business is short-term business, and it's basically meant for meat. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very, very much, sir. And I hope that we all are picking something from here. Okay, so I hope we all are picking something from here. He talked about, layers being a long-term business, and then he talked about broilers being a short-term business. So for many of you that want to go into poultry, already thinking, okay, which one should I go for? Should I go for the long term? Should I go for the short term? However, our next question is going to address that curiosity in your mind. So Apostle Emmanuel, can you tell us, let's say you want to advise someone that want to go into poultry farming, you want to advise them. Will you advise them, to go into layers? We've talked about operations now. We've talked about operations, and we've talked about the fact that, okay, when you are looking at broiler, you are looking at a short-term operation. When you're looking at layers, you're looking at a long-term operation. So what will you recommend for a beginner, someone that just wants to start? Will you recommend him going into layers where it has to do with long term? Maybe it's going to help his experience. It's going to help him get familiar with the nitty-gritty of poultry farming, or go into broiler where at least short-term risk, you can just raise quickly, raise quickly, and then sell again. So what will you advise a beginner to do? Is he going into layers? Is he going into broilers? Can you just tell us about that?
Yeah, thank you very much. For a beginner, I will advise a beginner to just start from where from the strength. You should look at his financial strength and decide on what he wants to do. But the best recommendation that I'm going to make available for a beginner is two operation. The cockerels, that is the cock production, and the broilers. Because I wouldn't want a beginner to just jump into the laying production because he's not experienced, he's not exposed to anything. And these birds can be very funny when you don't have much experience to dive into it. Even regardless the training which you have taken, I quite remember when I want to come into poultry, I have to buy a ticket from Ghana, Nigeria, to meet my cousin who has been into farming for some time, and I have to sit with him for one night. And it took me through a little part of, in fact, he was much interested in the brooding aspect of it. And I think what he told me finally was, when you return back to Ghana, I want you to go and start with cocks. And I said, but you have a lot of layers. Say, yes, I started with cocks, and I was able to build my capacity, build my strength, and was able to understand what birds is all about, how to live with these birds, how to manage them, how to take care of them. and how to, you know, to see birds do very well. So he said, get back to Ghana and start with cocks. So when I came back to Ghana, I started with cockerels. I started with about 100 cocks, and I got to learn a lot of things from them. And I really discovered that had even I ventured into laying business, I would have crashed along the line, because a whole lot of money will go into it. Because I understood that you need a whole lot of money to invest into layers before you start reaping out of it. And that is what even broke me apart. That I'm going to invest into this bird for 20 weeks before they start laying. And they told me that even when they start dropping, thought all the birds would drop at the same time. I said, no, you start seeing the eggs one after the other. Today one, tomorrow three, next tomorrow. So I said, no, 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 no. Then let me start with what I can manage at this time. Let me start with what I have the resources for. So I went into cockerel business operation. So I always want to advise every new beginner that please don't just jump into the laying business like that. You might have the money, have all the resources in this world to do that, but please just keep the money in the bank and start from somewhere. You can even do the broilers too, but broilers will not give you more experience like the cocks, because you know cocks too live for about approximately 5 to 6 months before you sell them. So it is the same process you go with the cocks that you go with the layers, just that the vaccination process is quite different. So that is the only thing that you need to learn when it comes to the laying production. So please, my advice for every beginner is you can decide if you want to end up doing layers, then why don't you start with the cockerel production, so that you'll be able to understand how birds are and how you'll be able to jump into the layer business, because they will help you grow into that. And if you are the type that wants a short-term business and you just want to do a short-term product, just go into the broiler, because broilers is just between 6 to 12 weeks, you sell them off. So that is my advice that I will give.
Thank you very much, sir. I believe we all are taking note of these tips. If you want to start, the poultry business, our facilitator, which is a well-experienced individual, is telling you to start with cockerel. So please let us take note of that. So looking at our time, and we don't want to waste much time, so we're going to move into the last question when it comes to types of operation before we delve into other aspects of establishing a poultry farm. And we are going to just be very, very quick about those aspects. So the last question for types of operations. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, do I go large scale? Do I go small scale? If I'm going large scale, what do I need to know? If I'm going small scale, what do I need to know? So are there specific type of operations suited for small scale farmers and large scale farmers?
Yes, yeah, I would say, yeah, when it comes to large scale farming, probably there are various other things that you need to know, because you are going into a very large scale uh, production. So it requires several things you have to put in place. But if I'll answer this question, are there specific types of operations suitable for small scale farmers versus large scale farmers? I might basically say no, because all operations is open to either both small scale farmers and large scale farmers. But the only different thing is, when somebody wants to engage in large scale farming, then he has to go for more equipment, because he has enough money to purchase all these things. He has to understand the fact that what is going into require a huge sum of money to be invested in. But when it comes generally to farming, the poultry operation, there's no specific interest for small scale farmers or large scale farmers to say. What I'm trying to say is, you can't tell me that you have to differentiate anything. The operation is same: broilers, layers, newlers, cockerels, and whatsoever. That is what all large scale farmers would do, and that is what small scale farmers would do. So it's the same operation, but the only difference is the investment, that the large scale farmer need to put more investment into what he's trying to do. So that is it.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So let us just go into the next. No, this particular question will lead us into the next aspect of the question. So you've talked about the fact that when it comes to small scale and large scale. Okay, please, Mr. Abubakar Musa, thank you. Mute your mic. Thank you very much. Probably because you just joined. Thank you so much. Okay, so you talked about large scale now and small scale farming. So if I'm going into large scale farming, you talk about the fact that okay, we need to get equipment. So aside all of these factors, what are the challenges I need to bear in mind going into large scale farming, and what are the challenges I need to bear in mind going into small scale farming? Some people want to weigh the risk and say, oh, some people may have the money and then they're like, okay, let me start small first, and some people will be like, let me start big. Oh. So what are the challenges that someone that wants to go into small scale, someone that wants to go into large scale, what do they have to bear in mind? Okay, these are the challenges you will face going into small scale. These are the challenges you will face going into large scale. So please, can you just give us an insight into that?
Yeah, is it taking us to the next question, the next part, or is the same place we are now?
Yeah, it's taking us to the next part, which is size of operation.
Yeah, the size of operation. Yeah, so the size of operation, if you want to go into large scale farming, you need to consider the availability of land. Yes, do you have enough land available to go into large scale farming? In fact, land is a major challenge. In Ghana, we've seen so many people want to go into farm, but the ability to even acquire the land in the first place, to have a genuine land to acquire, or very soon we'll be talking about zoning, to even want to consider, to find out if that land is even suitable for farming in the first place, or is for a different thing. So the availability of land is one of the major things that need to be. It stands as a hindrance most of the time. Even with small scale farming too, yes, he wants to go into small scale farming, but he doesn't have a land. I talk to several people. I try to encourage people to come into farm, but the next thing they tell me is, where do I get the land from? So, and availability of workers. You want to go for life today, like our own farm. We are trying to get people to go and work in the farm. They tell you that where the farm is, they don't even want to go and stay there. And sometimes that is the zone. That is where you can, position this. That is where you can locate the farm. They don't want to go. So the few people you find there, you have to increase their salary so that they can do so many things for you. Because if you don't increase the salary, then they leave the job too, and you come back to zero. So you see, the availability of workers. A small scale farmer too has a land. He has put up a pen. He has started his business. Probably he's working, and he works in in the ministry or any other, and he wants people to come and work for it. It's not everybody that even want to do poultry farming in the first place. No, it's not everybody that wants to work in a poultry farm. When they consider the smell from the manure and all kinds of things, they don't even want to venture there. You see, so these are some of the challenges, and being able to hire more professionals. The large scale farmers, are they able to hire professionals to do their work for them? Yeah, so the ability to hire more professionals too is another factor that really go against the large scale farming. They have the money, they have the resources, but are they able to get the right professionals to even come and work on the farm for them? Small scale farmer does not have the resource to hire a professional. He's a banker, but he wants to do farming. He tries to look for someone on the street who needs a job to do. Oh, come and work on my farm. And the person needs a job to do. Yeah, he ends up working on the farm. That is why we can see larger number of mortality of birds, because he's not experienced, he's not trained, doesn't even know what is happening, doesn't know the in and out of birds. So that is another thing too. So the ability to get people to handle various segments of the farms for you. You could have various kinds of livestock on that farm. You want to go into large scale, and large scale, like for instance in Nigeria, we have quite a number of large scale farmers that they don't just do poultry alone. They're into other aspects of livestock farming. So are you able to get people to handle various segments of this farm for you? Well, if you're able to get people to do it, fine, kudos, that's a credit to you. you become very successful with it. But many farms are closing down because they don't have these people to do it for them. And even those they have, some of them to come to bring their own problem, either stealing or some other things. So these are some of the challenges. These are the things we've come to discover, that there access to more funds. Are you able to access funds? The small scale farmer is not able to access bank loans. They don't give loans to in Ghana. They will tell you, we don't give loans. And if your farm is very big, fine, they will consider it because they know there are other things in that. Maybe you are into other livestock farming, not only poultry. They feel they believe that poultry birds they can easily bird flu can just come at any time and wipe them away. So why should I give you loan? So the availability of funds is another problem too. Land, another problem. Workers, hire the ability to hire professionals, and even will you be able to get all the professionals you need to take various segments of the farm, to take various aspects of the farm and work on various livestock on that farm. So these are some of the challenges that we come by.
All right. Thank you very, very much, sir. I think we're already getting to the peak of this discussion. So we are going to move on to the next question, but we are going to create a very small space for just one or two questions. Now, this is not the main time to ask questions, but because of we just want to hear from our audience to make sure they are following us. So if you have a question, please kindly drop it in the text box, in the chat box. Yes, so drop it in the chat box if you have a question, and we are going to attend to it. Now, just one or two. We are still going to get into the question and answer section, but we want to create a little time just to attend to somebody that may have a question to ask. So I can see that Queen and this other person, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce your name correctly, Ofonime Udo Echo. If you have a question, please just drop it in the chat box. Drop it in the chat box. So the chat box, just click that text message icon on your Google Meet, and then you drop the question there for us to see. Just drop the question there. Just drop the question there. Mr. Abubakar, I can see your hand is up. Just drop the question in the chat box, and we are going to attend to it. So while I'm going to ask our facilitator the next question, please ensure the questions are already in the chat box so that we can just pick it and attend to it. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so we are already in size of operation, and we've talked about the challenges to note for large scale and small scale. Sometimes all these things looks like a very, very huge decision, but thank you for breaking it down. All we need sometimes is just to have various options in front of us, and then we look at the one that suits us. Okay, if I'm going into large scale, I know that I'm going to hire employers. Am I ready to pay their salary? No. Then I go into small scale and just run it in my backyard. Okay, I can pay employers, I can do this, I can do that. So a lot of challenges, is into this two aspects. And when we have those options presented before us, we will definitely know which one to pick. So I repeat again, please drop your questions in the chat box if you have a question. Trust me, we are going to attend to it. Drop your questions in the chat box. Mr. Abubakar Musa, please drop your question in the chat box. I saw that your hand was up. Please drop your question in the chat box so that we can attend to it. We're going to give a small window for questions so that we can attend to it now. Or probably after this next question, then we can allow one or two questions before we continue. And like I said, our time is fast spent. This is very, very detailed. And we know that time is not on our side. However, we are going to be as fast as possible, and wherever it is that we can stop for today. Okay, so now we are already in size of operation. So how does the size of a poultry farm affect its profitability? This question, I'm thinking that it could be very. I'm trying to think about it in my head. That okay, but let me give it to our facilitator. How does the size of a poultry farm affect its profitability and management requirements? So can you just give us an insight into that? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the size of a poultry farm, yes, would definitely has effect on the profitability of the farm. Why? It's a normal thing. When your farm is large, you are into layer production or operation, and you have about 5,000 birds laying for you, and definitely as large as the number of eggs you collect there will determine the more profit you make compared to the man who has about 1,000 birds. So if you are in large scale farming, when after deducting everything that has been invested into that production for that month, compared to the person who has 1,000 birds, after he has finished deducting everything that's gone into that production, definitely you are going to have more profit than him. Profit margin will be very large. So the bigger your farm, the more profit you make. And the bigger the farm, the more managerial practice that you have to put into it. You have to apply. The more money, the more fund that has to go into it to manage the farm. But the lesser and the smaller the farm, a small scale farmer will not need a huge sum of money to manage his farm because already the farm is not very big. The number of birds he has in his pen is few. But if you are into large scale farming, 10,000 birds, 20,000 birds, you should expect to invest more into management. You should expect more into disinfecting, every other thing you want to do to manage the farm very well will require a larger amount of money because you want to have more profit. Definitely you have to invest more. So it will either require less or more funds to be able to manage the farm well. It depends on the kind of farm you have, either a small scale farmer or a large scale farmer. It will require less or more funds to manage the farm very well. Increase in productivity is sure if your farm is large. Yes, increase in productivity is sure if your farm is large, and it will give you more profit. So the profitability from there too will be huge. So if it is properly managed and best well taken care of. So that is the point now. So the size of your poultry farm affects the profitability, yes, of the farm, and the management requirement to will be huge because the size of your farm, if it is big, you need a lot of money to invest there. When it is small, you need a less fund to invest there. So that is the answer for us.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for that insight. So for the questions that we have on this side of operation, most of the things, the things you've said for those two questions has basically addressed them. So it won't be good for us to just keep repeating and then we keep stressing you and then you keep saying over and over again what you have said. So we're going to move into location. We have some couple of questions here. Please drop your questions in the chat box if you have them, and we are going to start attending to questions while I also ask our facilitator the questions that we have for this particular session. So please drop your questions in the chat box. I can see that people are already dropping their questions for us in the chat box. So we're not going to pick one question. We're going to pick one question before we move on. So this question is from Mr. Otuaga Omamobo. I apologize again if I did not pronounce your name very well. I sincerely apologize. It wasn't deliberate. So this person asked, he said, is it good to start a poultry farm in a property where you already have a pig farm? Is it safe? So can you answer that for us, sir?
To start a poultry farm in a property where you already have
a pig farm, a pig farm.
That question is a bit confusing. There's already an established poultry farm already, and you want to start another poultry farm in that place.
No, sir. The person is saying that the person has a pig farm, pig, P-I-G, pig, okay. Pig farm.
Oh, pig farm. Yeah, so okay, fine. Yeah, there is a farm I visited somewhere in Ghana, and I saw they have piggery farming, and at the same time they have poultry farming. And I didn't see any much problem there because the distance to the distance within these beds was so huge. It was a very big land. It was, I think, seated on about 5 or 10 acres of a land, a very big place. and we have to even drive around because you can't walk all around the farm. So on that same place, that same farm, they have a piggery farm and they have a poultry farm. So I don't think there's, and even if the land is not very big, it depends on how your managerial practice is all about. If you manage the animals very well, I don't think you are going to have any problem at all. But there should be some slight distance between them, so that it is possible. All depends on how you manage them.
Okay, thank you very, very much, sir. Mr. Otuaga Omamobo or Mrs. Otuaga, the question, I believe you've gotten your answer. It has to do with how you are able to manage them, the distance you maintain between your pigs and also your poultry. So we are moving into location. For everybody that have dropped their question here, trust me, we are going to attend to each and every one of them. The aspect of location, and definitely our time is when choosing a location for poultry, what are the factors to consider? So we want to tell what are the factors, what are those things that you must consider before choosing a location? I believe that this particular question is going to address most of our question here, and then we're going to move into zoning that you talked about. But let us first ask, maybe when you're even answering this question, we even delve into zoning. But what are the most important factors to consider when selecting a location for a poultry farm? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you too. Yeah, important factors. So we talk about the environmental factors are very important. We talk about the climate, the terrain, and yeah, what are the environmental factors? You have to consider the environmental factors, and in this one too, when you are considering the environmental factor, you are talking about the relative temperature of the area need to be taken into consideration. Where you want to locate your farm, what is the temperature that is operational in that area? Because for every poultry bed, there's a particular temperature that the birds has to find themselves in. Because poultry beds themselves too produces heat. Yeah, they produce heat coming out of them. So when the temperature of the area is not very conducive, it affects the temperature of the pen, and this is what then you begin to have problem. Recently I visited a farm and I began to hear the shells of the eggs are slightly soft, and this does and that. And I came, sometimes we want to say, oh, Newcastle problem and all these stuff, but later I came to think of it that no, when the temperature, the condition of the pen is not very conducive, it can affect the birds and affect their laying, because they will be stressed up. They will be straight up, and definitely there's no way they will lay eggs that the shells are very, 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 very hard. So one of the things we look at the environmental factors, that is the temperature of the place, the air pressure, the air pressure, the wind velocity, that's the air movement, is very important. The quality of water, the quality of air and water in that very environment too is very important. When we talk about air pressure, we're talking about the oxygen that the birds breathe in, and the oxygen pressure. And we have a particular measure for all this oxygen pressure that's needed to be in that very environment. So we take note of that. The environmental factors, that is the relative temperature of the level of the area, that has to be between 20 to 24 degrees centigrade. And we're talking about the humidity of the area, that has to fall between 50 and 70%. Maybe sometime even during brooding, you have to consider and know the humidity of the place, the air pressure, or the or partial oxygen pressure, as we call it. You need to consider and look at that one too. And look at the air movement too, is important, and the quality of water you find in that area. And locating your farm too, you must consider these various things. Very important. Easy access, how accessible accessible is a place to the farm. Can you easily access your farm? It's very important to consider the road networks. Can I get to my farm easily when I locate a farm here? Can vehicles, can I drive, my usables to the farm easily? Can I bring my products out of the farm to the market easily? You want to consider all these things. And it's very important when you look at how to, your day-old chicks, remember, they have to come to the farm. So if the road network is bad, how do you get this best to the farm? If the road network is bad, you begin to have problem of water supply. So the supply of feeds, all these things and need to be taken into consideration. So relative atmosphere of the temperature of the area is the first place. So you're talking about the humidity, talking about the air pressure, the air movement, and we're talking about the road networks, accessibility to the farm, and that will help you get all your usable to the farm, your water, your feeds, and being able to take your products out of the farm to be sold at the market. All these things need to be considered before you can site a farm at a place.
All right. Thank you very, very much, sir, for that question, that answer. And I hope we are taking note of some of the things that he has mentioned. So he talked about the aspect of proximity, to the farm and all that. So, can you just tell us?
It has answered quite a number of questions on that part.
Yes. But there are just some ones that you want to talk about. We talk about the aspect of zoning. So I want to ask the question about that zoning aspect.
The zoning,
yeah. Okay, so you talked about zoning the other time for a particular question. I can't really remember the particular one, but you mentioned zoning. So what are the zoning or legal requirements that farmers should be aware of when choosing a location for poultry farm? So what are those zoning or legal requirements they should be aware of?
Yeah, the zoning, when it comes to zoning, we need to really take good note of that, because for every nation, there's a law and regulations pertaining to the land locations. So you must be able to find out from the authorities what exactly is permitted at a particular place. Because probably where you want to site your farm might be a public place. That place has been zoned for as a public place, whereby you need to have your recreational grounds and all kinds of things there, and you now want to put a farm. You have the money and you just want to buy the place and locate your farm. So it is very important for you to check on that. It's very important for you to check on that before you can, because there are places that has been zoned for other uses. So, and there are some areas too that has all kinds of water bodies that they don't really want anybody to tamper with these water bodies. Because I went to do some inspection somewhere, a place in Accra, and I realized that there's a place that has been zoned. When I went, I saw quite a whole number of water bodies, and you can't site a farm there because the government will not allow you do so, because they know why they are preserving those water bodies. They know what those water bodies are doing for them. So you have to find out about all these things from the appropriate quarters to be able to know exactly what allocation is being made for different what the land has been allocated for. Because in every land, I did country and regional planning, and we I know in our plan we do much of this zoning. We have the high density residential area, we have the medium residential area, and we have the low income residential areas. So for the high density residential areas, the kind of people you find there, and the kind of things to put there. So there are some, like for instance, the low income residential area, you can't go and put a poultry farm there. It will cause a whole lot of mayhem. There will be problems and troubles. So you need to know exactly what you want to do, where you want to locate the farm. What is the zoning law talking about? What is the town planning law saying about that area? There is something the government have said about that very location that you need to find out from the right authorities before you locate your farm. Otherwise, you'll be there putting up the structure and they come push you out of the place. A typical example is my cousin You know why he stopped farming and relocated to the US was because where he was having the farm was within a residential area. And when he started, there was no much residence around the area. There was no much building. But when the building started coming up, you know, the rich people began to come out. Everybody began to rise against it because of the smell from the litters. So he has to move the farm out. They have to ask him to close the place. So some of these things are very vital. When you get to know that this area you want to locate your farm will not call for residents, for houses to be built, then fine, you can go ahead to do that. You know, so and again, to should maybe peradventure you decide to locate your farm at a place whereby there's no much residence there at that time, you should have it in mind that you should be able to save money or have money to begin to buy farmlands whereby that place has been designed or apportioned for farm purpose, so that you can move your farm there when the area begins to grow. So that's what I can say about that.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So our time is fast spent, and we are going to really, really rush now so that we can take the questions that have been asked here, and then we can call it a day for today. So in just 2 minutes, can you just tell us about marketing? Marketing when it comes to poultry farming. What are those things that poultry farmers must know when it comes to marketing? So in 2 minutes, can you just address that for us? Thank you very much.
Yeah, when it comes to marketing, it's very important that farmers must be able to analyze the market and define their target audience. Yes, so and that is where you need to really know who are the people I want to sell my produce to. The end product that comes out of my farm, which are the people that wants to get this product. So you must be able to analyze the market. So that's why your farm must be located in a place that you could easily have access to the market to. It's easily accessible by the consumers of this product you are producing. So please, they need to really define the audience. They define the people, the target of who are these people, who are these consumers that I want to sell my product to. So if you can identify these people, then you begin to strategize you begin to bring out your marketing strategies. So it is very important to be able to know the chain, the the producer, the retailer, and the consumer. So who are you selling to? Are you selling it to the producer, the wholesaler, the retailer, and the consumer? Who are you selling it to? Are you targeting the retailers or the consumers, or you are targeting the wholesalers? So you should be able to identify this. When you're able to find these people you want to target and work with, then it will be easy for you to be able to break through the market. So what we do is we don't target the consumer, we target the wholesaler, those who come to pick the eggs and they go do the other things. So it's a way of creating employment for people too, because the wholesaler comes to pick the eggs and the wholesaler has a retailer somewhere, and the retailer sells to the consumer. So we, in our own marketing strategy, we're able to identify the people we want to work with. So we said we want to work with the wholesalers. So that is what we do.
Sir, about that aspect of marketing. It's very, very important that you know your target audience. Who are the audience? Who are the people that you want to sell to? When you're able to define the people you want to sell to, then you're able to market your product to them. Okay, so in the same 2 minutes, can you just tell us about housing? When it comes to housing, what is it about housing? What are the various things about housing? And then probably some houses are much more suitable than some housing. So can you just, in just 2 to 3 minutes, can you tell us about housing? Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, housing. Wow. So housing, yeah, we have various kinds of houses for poultry operation. We have the permanent structure, we have the semi-permanent structures, and we have the temporary structures. So when we talk about the permanent structure, you are talking about the housing that is you use blocks to build up. Maybe you have to raise the blocks to about 4 coats or 3 coats, depending on the area where you are, depending on the temperature of the area where you are trying to locate the farm. Okay, where we have to raise the blocks to about 4 coaches, because the place is relatively very cold. So we have the permanent structure. That structure itself cannot be broken. You have decided to You know, you've checked on the zoning, you've checked on everything. Now I want to locate my farm here. Then now I'm going for a permanent structure that can be used for about 20 years, 25 years. A long-term thing we are talking about here. So we have the permanent structure whereby you have to get your bricks together. You know, you have to raise your blocks. You have to roof it with either iron sheets or whatever thing you want to roof the structure with. So that's a permanent structure. We have the semi-permanent, which is the wooden structure, which can be used for a considerable number of years. And within these years, there is prone to renovation. You have to renovate the structure. Probably after 3 or 4 years, there are some parts that will be broken. You have to put them in place. So we have the semi-permanent wooden structure. We have the temporary structure. And these are constructed and roofed with bamboo. You know, those days, this traditional way of building poultry housing, they use the bamboo, you know, to build it, and that one can last for just a little time, and if some few years, and they start getting rotten. So you have to look at what you want to do if you want to go for a permanent structure. And some of the factors that influence this choice is funds, the availability of money. If you have enough money, you can decide to go for a permanent structure. If you are the owner of the land, you can decide to go for a permanent structure. And if you have considered the environmental condition to, if it is favorable for the birds to live there, you can go for a permanent structure. So a well-designed housing creates a well-designed poultry house, you know. So it need to match the kind of birds you are bringing in. So the kind of birds you are bringing into at the same time depends on how you structure your housing. And I think that is going to help you to maximize the when it comes to the growth of these birds and egg production at the same time. So your environmental factor need to be considered to know the kind of structure you want to bring out, so that it will help you in the proper growth of the birds, and at the same time give you good egg production at the same time. A proper housing can, you know, can minimize all kinds of things like stress, you know, because you have a good proper housing, there will be good spacing within there. It will avoid infections, you know. And if there's cross ventilation, when there's cross ventilation, it will avoid all kinds of infections. So you should know the kind of structure you want to come up with, and all will depend on the funds and the environmental conditions and being the owner of the land too. So it will avoid stress, it will avoid infection, and it will increase the total effectiveness of the farming activity. You know, sometimes when your housing is well structured, if you are even going in there, you know, there are no hitches anywhere. You are able to move freely from one pen to the other. The entry, you know, you have open doors within the pens, so it will be easy for you to access these birds or carry out any form of disinfection, or maybe any form of vaccination or whatever thing, or spraying the place when the birds are even still there. So the items we use in making this permanent, you have the bricks, the cement, the woods, the mesh wires, the roofing sheets, and all this. So please, ventilation is very important in poultry farming. We need to be very conscious of that. Ventilation is very, very important when you are coming out with a poultry house. You know, it helps to eliminate excess of heat and the humidity from the shed. So we don't want a lot of heat to be inside the pen. So please, you know, when you are really coming out with a housing, consider ventilation. Look at the flow of the air and know how best to position the structure. It generates comfort for the birds, and birds naturally eliminate body heat, and this increases the temperature of the pen, so of the shed. So good air movement eliminate the excess heat that comes inside the shed. So it's important for us to consider all these factors. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for that brief session when it comes to housing. So the last one we're talking about today, briefly before we move to our questions and then we call it a wrap for today, is equipment. So in just 2 minutes, can you just tell us about equipment? Okay, so people will say, okay, I'm going into large scale. What are the equipment I need to know? I'm going into small scale. what are the equipment I need to get? So can you just delve into the aspect of equipment for us, and also giving us insight into, okay, if you are going into small scale, these are the kind of equipment you want to get. If you are going into large scale, these are the kind of equipment you want to get. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, so thank you very much. This question is very dicey, but I will try my best to do something about it. See, when it comes to equipment, generally with either large scale and small scale farming, depending on the kind of large scale farming that you want to venture into, that's where you begin to require some high tech equipment that need to be. I will mention some few of these high tech equipment that a large scale farmer will just need to have on his farm. But you see, when it comes to generally, when it comes to equipments, small scale, large scale farmer, you need to have your feeders are very, very important. Your drinkers are either the manual or automated ones. We have small scale farmers who still use automated drinkers at the same time. The lighting system, your lighting is very important, and the heating system is required. The beaking machines are important. You need to have all these things on farm. You have the chicken cages. All depends on the type. But we have small scale farmers who still have battery cages, or they have the local one they use wood to do. So yeah, so you need to have ropes on the farm. You need to have cutlass, which is very important for weeding, or maybe you're trying to cut something, you need a cutlass to do that. You need incubators. Most of the large scale farmers, they have incubators at their farm, but it's not all of them. Sometimes they try to do some crossbreed and things like that, and they want to hatch all these birds, and they need to have incubators. We have small scale farmers in Ghana that have smaller incubators to do their own experiments on birds they've been able to, to fertilize, eggs they've been able to fertilize. So incubators too could be for a small scale, depend on the size of an incubator the small scale farmer is going for. But generally, a small scale farmer need a cutlass on the farm. You need a spraying machine. We need transport crates. Most large scale farmers, they have quite a number of transport crates that they don't just, so that makes them move birds or whatever thing around easily without any death or something like that. So we need a vaccination equipment. Yes, the large scale farmers, most of the time when you visit their farm, they have all these things. They have vaccination equipment. So yeah, so a small scale farmer, you need to have your drinker, your feeder, your lighting system must be there, your heating system. These days, we don't do those traditional form of using charcoal or pots to heat the bed. For instance, I was able to develop a form of a gas burner. A form of a local gas burner that's what I use for my heating system. So when I use that, I'm free to sleep at night when I'm doing my brooding. Or if if it happens that the weather is so cold and the temperature is not very conducive for the birds to lay very well, you can just put on that heater. You cover all the pen, put the heater on, and it will just give them the relative temperature that they need. So all these things are important for farmers to have on the farm. Yes, inferior quality of equipment will definitely have adverse effect on the efficiency of every poultry farm. When we are going for equipment, please, we don't have to go for inferior ones. Today, all sort of poultry equipments are coming into the system, and when we consider probably the financial aspect of it, that we don't have enough money to go for the quality ones, all these things break down along the line. So my advice is, please don't go for inferior equipments. Go for quality ones. The long-lasting quality equipments can take so many years and it will not break apart. So depending on where and who is selling for you, there could be variation of prices generally in the market. So sometimes there are some equipment that might be cheaper, but it is not inferior. Depending on where you are buying it from, and depending on who the importer is and how much it goes there, how much it brought into the country. So sometimes you just look at this price. You try to compare price to price and find out that, oh, this thing might be cheaper, but at the same time it is not. Nevertheless, when you go for instant drink, when you go for drinkers, produced from low quality rubber materials, yes, at the same time, we have all kinds of rubbers they are using to produce some of these drinkers now. And when you just lift it up, a little mistake, it falls down, it breaks apart. So you see, we should be conscious of that too. We have quality drinkers, rubber drinkers. Let's go for the quality rubber drinkers. Otherwise, these things might have adverse effect on your bed, because if you have to give birth maybe about 60 liters of water, and your drinkers just got broken in that way, you don't have access to a shop or wherever to buy new drinkers to replace that one, then you have to put more labor that day into it. And if you are the type that you don't have that much strength to do that too, it will have that effect on those birds. And when they don't drink well, it will affect their laying at the same time. You must always keep them in a safe place. All these equipments you get, try to keep them in. There are so many farms. Large-scale farmers have big-time storage facilities whereby they keep all their equipments and things to save this equipment, for the equipment to always look fresh at all times. So please try to keep it. It doesn't matter. You might be a small-scale farmer. Try to create a storage house where you can keep all your equipments just for the future. Because my daddy used to tell us when we were growing as young men, he said, a non-living thing has no leg and it cannot walk. So when you travel to America and spend about 10 years and you leave your non-living pen on your table and nobody enters into that room for 10 years, when you come back, you meet that pen on that same table. And I took a whole lot of knowledge from that place, that every non-living thing has no leg. The way you can preserve a non-living thing is to keep it very well, is to protect it so that other factors will not affect it. So anytime you go for it, you realize that it is new, and people ask you, you have this thing 10 years ago. Please, we can keep our equipment very well. So let's keep our equipment very well. So today we have what we call the smart sensors. Most of these large-scale farming, they have these smart sensors in their farm. They have it in the pen. And what does it do? It helps to monitor the temperature and the humidity and the air quality within the poultry house. So if you are blessed and you can have access to this equipment, really help you. We call it smart sensors. I saw some at a place called something kit I went to buy and I saw it there. Very sensitive. It can pick the temperature of the area, the humidity, it can pick everything and tell you exactly how comfortable the place is for the birds to live. And when it's not okay it will tell you that you need to do something very fast about it. So we have automated feeding system that much of these large-scale farmers, they have it. So it makes their work so easy. The only thing it does for them at the same time, the advantage is it reduces the number of people they employ, because most of these things are just like robots. You need only 1 or 2 people to operate it, and it will do all the automated things for you. So we have the automated feeding system, we have the automated drinking system, we have the automated manure removers, we have the pH meters to check the pH of your water. So please, you can lay hands on the small-scale farmers, can lay hands on pH system, but large-scale farmers, they go for the automated manure removers and the automated drinker system. Because of the number of birds they have, they control the water from a source, and it is able to spread to every part of the pen. So it's important. We have egg sorting machines, and most of the time it is the large scale farmers who have this equipment at their farm. So if a small scale farmer, you can just go and look for the small scaling one we put on the table to just scale your eggs, to be able to sort your eggs. So the large scale farmers, they have the automated egg sorting machines. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for that detailed explanation on equipment. For those that are planning to go into large scale, and even for those that are planning to go into small scale, you've heard some of the equipment that he has mentioned, equipment such as the one that is able to pick the temperature of a location for you, helping you to make informed decisions as it concerns choosing your location and all. Thank you very much for your wonderful time with us. So we've come to the end of the show, but before we go, we are going to attend to these questions. And sir, please, we implore you that if you can help us to answer all of these questions in just one minute, we are going to be very, very happy, so we can round up. Okay, somebody said, I want to know more about biosecurity. What can you say about biosecurity in just 1 minute? So this person say he would like to know more about biosecurity.
Yeah, when we talk about biosecurity, it's just a way of trying to secure your farm. Try to put various measures on ground that can protect your birds from other, how do we call it, foreign bodies or whatever. You know, I went to a particular farm and I saw the man told me that there used to be problems of birds, that, you know, they have quite a whole lot of birds that comes in there. And I saw various kinds of nets everywhere. And I said, why are you using this net for? He said, yeah, so that the birds cannot fly through it, so that I can protect my birds from bird flu. Because I realized that it is this bird that brings all this bird flu. And I told him that, yeah, you should be able to protect these birds from your birds from not having access to this bird. But now you have to protect your birds too from me, myself, who is coming to your farm. And he said to me, that's why when you came into the farm, you were unable to come to my birds direct. You have to go into a room, change yourself, wear a different probably boot, and follow me to my farm. You know, and that's what you do. And that is some of the measures. So when we talk about biosecurity, you are trying to protect your animals by building, you know, a kind of by building, you know, not like a physical fence wall, but in your mind, you are trying to build a kind of fence wall that will protect a meal. Like, for instance, you have quite a number of people that come to the farm. You have the wholesalers who come to pick your farm. They don't really need to have access to the bed. They don't have to come and look at how the birds are doing. No, there's a place you have designed for them to be. For anyone who will cross that path into where the bed is, there must be something you need to do. You must be able to have uniforms whereby they need to wear on what they've come with. They wear a different shoe, not what they have come to the farm with. And at the entrance of where you pass and enter into where your pens are, you know, you are protected by having a disinfector in some water there. So you step your feet in there, you wash under your shoes before. So all these things are part of the biosecurity you are trying to build for your farm, just to protect your birds from external forces.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for that. Mr. Abubakar Musa, sorry, who asked the question? Okay, Mr. Nuruddin Sikiru, I believe you've gotten an answer to your question. And don't worry, we are going to address this in one of our sessions very, very soon. I won't talk about it now, but watch out, just watch out. Okay, so all right, Mr. Ofonime Odueko, I'm sorry if I did not pronounce your name very well. You said you haven't heard about marketing. Our facilitator has talked about marketing. Probably you sent in this message before he talked about marketing, but I believe that right now you heard him talk about marketing and we've been able to answer those questions you have in mind. Okay, so moving on to the next question. This person said, I want to start with Ross 308. Which is the best feed brand for them? I don't know if you know what, if you know the bed called Ross 308, and he's asking that which is the best feed brand for them.
Yeah, well, you are in Nigeria and I'm in Ghana, so I wouldn't know. The kind of feed I use in Ghana is different from what you use there. We have various mesh, we have various feeds here which we use for our beds. But I think those 308 are good beds, just that probably they don't grow very tall, but they grow very broad and very heavy. So you can just use what you have, what best you feel you have there. I'm not in Nigeria. You can talk to Mr. Femi or talk to any other farmer on the platform that can really help you out with that. God bless you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for that. So, Mr. Abubakar Musa, you can reach out on the community page for your questions, and definitely you get a reply to your question. Okay, somebody asked, okay, still Mr. Abubakar Musa, he said, after having 2 weeks broiler in your farm, can you still start brooding new broiler beds? Maybe after raising some broilers and they are 2 weeks old, can you start raising a new broiler beds? So he's asking that question.
That after
raising some set of broilers in your farm and they are 2 weeks old, can you start brooding new broiler beds?
Yes, yeah, it is very possible. So let me add to the issue of the biosecurity. I think to answer that question too. These are measures at preventing and the introduction and the spread of harmful organisms. So viruses, bacteria, plants, animals, and whatever. So that is what biosecurity is all about. So if you have raised broilers for 2 weeks and you feel you want to raise other ones too, you want to start brooding other ones too, you need to have a brooder house that is basically meant for brooding. So so after which you have taken these 2 weeks out of that brooder house, you have to make sure that you disinfect the place properly. If there are other form of holes or little cracks anywhere, try to seal all those cracks and holes with cement and with mortar. You see, you wash the place the first washing, the second washing, the third washing. Get a very good disinfectant. In Ghana, we have very good disinfectant we use here. Get some there in Nigeria. I know Nigeria too has very good ones. Disinfect the place properly. Very well. And now you can introduce this new birds to the Buddha house. You wouldn't have any problem. But make sure that you have a Buddha house. If you want to go into that business constantly after every 6 weeks or 8 weeks, have a place that is called a Buddha specifically for that business. So that anytime the birds are 2 weeks, you take them out of the place and you start working on the Buddha house before you introduce new birds into the place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So moving into the other questions that we have. Okay, so this person is asking that with feeding amounts to 80% of production and ever increasing cost of feed, how do you minimize cost of feed while increasing productivity and profit?
That is a very big question. How do you minimize the cost of feed while you say minimizing the cost of feed, minimizing the cost
and
of
then
feed,
increasing productivity?
and then you can minimize the cost of feed if you have the accurate calculation for the preparation of feeds. If you feel that the ones you are buying out there is very expensive and you want to prepare your feeds, the farm I visited 2-3 days ago to just check on what they are doing there. The woman took me to their storage house and I saw them producing their own feeds. And I asked her, "Are you able to do it accurately?" And she brought out a chart. And I look at the kind of eggs they are producing. You could see that they are perfect. And I asked her, "How much are you saving on each of these bags?" He said she's saving about 38 Ghana cedis. And I said, fine, that's a good deal. So probably that is what she feels is okay for her to be able to minimize cost and be able to make more profit. So she's now saving 38 cedis on each bag of feed, which is good. After she has deducted the transportation, the cost of of producing the feed, she made sure she add all together so that she'll be able to say that, oh, this feed is a bag of 50 kilograms is costing this amount of money. So eventually she's able to save 38 cedis of Ghanaian cedis, which is okay for her. So if only you can produce your feeds, or you can get a place whereby the feeds can be cheaper than what you are buying now, then I think it will help.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir, for that answer. So moving on to the next question. So I'm going to just say all this one together, so you just answer them at once. So this person is asking that which is the best to put in the floor of a pen? Is it roughly sawdust or smooth dust, or what can he use for the floor of his pen? Also, he's also asking that how to disinfect the farm. That's the same person that is asking that, okay, the person asked number one, that what's the best thing to use on the floor of his pen? Number two, how can he disinfect his farm? And number three, how many feeders and drinkers is needed for each 100 broilers? So you can just help us answer those questions together in just 3 minutes. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Yeah. For 100 broilers, what I do is 100 broilers, I'll give them 10 feeders, because I want all of them to eat uniformly. I don't want some to eat and some will not eat, because I feed them once. So I make sure that every 10 broiler is allocated to one feeder. And when you do that, your birds grow well. All of them are in fact, when you see them, you don't see small birds and see big birds. All of them eat at the same time. So that's what I do. And you have to get a 15-liter drinker. You need about 4 15-liter drinkers for 100 broiler, because they drink a lot of water. So if in case they are able to, when the day is sunny and they drink all the water, that's about 60 liters of water. Then you can add either another 15 liters to it. So that is it. So that is the answer for that. Disinfect. How do you disinfect your farm? You start disinfecting your farm by first, after you finish raising the beds, and you get the manure out of the the brooder or whatever, the pen, and you wet the place with water so that you'll be able to scrape. So I always tell farmers that when you are doing the floor of your pen, please don't make it rough, make it smooth. Let them make it smooth as if they are making it for a room to live in, a human room to live in, so that when you scrape the manure off and you spread water on it, and when you just pick a broom, you can just wash every other thing out. You just get the manure, put water on it for about 30 minutes, just leave it go and do some other things. By the time you come back, it has loosened itself. Scrape it off and wash it again with water and omo. So when you finish washing the plate with water and omo, as you are washing, make sure you are washing all the roofing, if your hands can get to the top, so that you take all cobwebs and whatever thing out of the place. Know the size of the wall, everywhere you are washing with the omo and with the water. If you don't have a spray gun, or let me say a pipe into that pen to spray the roofings or whatever, then you can get a spraying gun, so that you can put water into it and omo. And so when you finish, you use ordinary water to wash the whole place, and you now look at the disinfectant you went to buy. Look at the quantity to a liter of water for disinfecting the place. Apply that on the floor. You just pour the water there on the top of the wall and leave it for a while before you wash it out. And when you do that, let the place dry up and try to come do it again, probably the second time or the third time before you introduce new beds to the place. So I don't use smooth sawdust, because when you use smooth sawdust, it is easy for the birds to eat it. The day old chick will begin to eat that smooth sawdust. So what I do is I use the roughing sawdust. And I don't just put the birds directly on the roughing sawdust. I place I spread white paper on it. The paper the sprayers used to want to spray. You see what they use. So I buy that one, spread it all over the sawdust. Try to close every corner so that you will not see sawdust on the paper. So when I bring the birds in, I spread the feed on that paper for them. I introduce them for the first 1 week they come. So they will be used to it, but not to the dust. So when you use the smooth that, leave it that way, the birds will now eat the smooth dust. Thank you.
All right. Emmanuel Mensah, please mute your mic. Thank you very much. Mr. Emmanuel Mensah, please mute your mic. Thank you so much. Yeah, we've come to the end of today's livestock hour, and sincerely, we really want to appreciate each and every one of you that took out of your precious time to be here today. And I believe we've gained one or two things. The recording is going to be available, so you can go over it again and again and again. I want to say special thanks to our facilitator for making himself available. We really, really appreciate you so much. Thank you everybody for coming. Next week is another day for Livestock Hour, and we are already getting set for next week. In fact, I don't want to say I know the topic for next week, but I'm not going to share it yet. So we're going to keep you in suspense for next week topic, but it's going to be another interesting topic, a very, very interesting one that you all are going to like, trust me. And by the time we drop the publicity, you are definitely going to like it. So start getting ready for Livestock Hour next week, Friday. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you very, very much for coming. So the recording will be dropped on our YouTube page, and we are going to share the link so you can go over to our YouTube page to watch it. Thank you so much for coming. We say thank you. So we can exit the call now. See you next week, Friday. So we can exit the call. The session has ended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Femi. God bless you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we can exit the call. We can exit the call for those that are still here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next week is another time, and trust me, we're going to have a much another wonderful session next week, just as we had today. So thank you so much for coming. So we can exit the call. Please exit the call. Exit the call. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.